creativity is one of the most powerful forces. Your creative self-expression is the easiest and best pathway to happiness, fulfillment, joy, connection, fun, play. So honey, let it come through.
Baby, I'm thriving. Oh,
Hey everybody, I'm Laurie Hernandez, and this is One Creative Mind. Justin Michael Williams is an award-winning author, speaker, and Grammy-nominated artist. His mission? To bring people together and bridge divides. And how? Through compassion, connection, and well-being. As a pioneering millennial voice in diversity and inclusion in wellness, he's been called an inspirational powerhouse, and we are so lucky to get to talk with him today. Justin, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Laurie, thank you so much. That was such a sweet introduction. I'm grateful to be here.
All right, let's start at the very beginning with your own personal story, because I think that'll give us some insight as to what has inspired you to pursue your life's mission. Where did you grow up? Tell us a little about your childhood.
Yeah, so I grew up, I always tell people that I grew up on the street in our neighborhood that the police didn't even like to drive down. And I know it sounds intense, but I grew up in a town in Northern California in the East Bay area called Pittsburgh, California. A lot of people don't know there's a Pittsburgh in California. But, in a pretty tough environment. And there was a lot of love in my environment, but a lot of challenges as well. And, I think a lot of us grow up, no matter how privileged or not, or whatever it is that we grew up with, we all have ways that we have to learn to adapt to our experience of our childhood. And, this gave me a very particular adaptation that I had to learn how to grow up inside of.
Yeah. How do you think your early experiences impacted the evolution of your mental and emotional health?
I think a story that a lot of people listening might relate to is, growing up in the environment that I grew up in. While some people's adaptation to growing up around a lot of trauma or violence or these different kinds of things is to also be violent or be angry or be these different kinds of things, my adaptation showed up that in a way that I think a lot of people might relate to, which was becoming a chronic overachiever. Anybody? Yes. Right? Like feeling like if I just stay busy, if I just do enough, if I just accomplish enough, if I'm in every after school program, if I do all these things, then maybe I will finally be enough. Once I finally get out of here, then I will be happy. Then I'll be better for my family. And then the whole story, right? That we tell ourselves. And there's some beauty to that, of course, but there's also like a big shadow underneath it. And so, the story of what happened for me and kind of like the toxic underbelly of it all is I'm so grateful to say that I did do all of those things. I graduated at the top of my class, or near the top of my class, which I'm still bitter about. I was almost the top. I'm just kidding. No, I'm teasing. Yeah. And I got a full ride academic scholarship to go to UCLA. I get to LA. I come out of the closet. I have extra money. I have scholarship money. I'm living in a nice neighborhood. I'm now in a safe environment. And I sat there and I remember one day just looking in the mirror when I was 18 and I said, I'm still miserable. How? And that confused the heck out of me. Like, how was it possible? How could it even be remotely possible that I could have accomplished everything I've ever set out to accomplish, which was like dangled at me as the carrot of like, once you accomplish all these things, you're going to finally, be happy. And I did all those things and I wasn't happy. And that spiraled me into a bit of depression. And I ended up secretly at the time going to a therapist because that was not like the thing to do in our family, go to a therapist. And I went to a therapist and the therapist said to me, well, young man, it looks like you spent your entire life trying to find your happiness outside of yourself. And it's about time that you find it within. Those his exact words. And in that moment, I have to just be honest, like I had never even heard those words, like find happiness within. Now that's very common language, but like I'm older than I look. This is like before there was an iPhone, I was in college and I had never heard these words, find happiness within. And so I'm looking at myself like, within what? Like, what do you mean? And then this is when I started my journey of mental health and mindfulness, which he recommended to me. Start this journey, learn to look inside of yourself, which is the only place you haven't looked.
Wow, I didn't expect to get called out in the first 5 minutes of this.
Hey, watch out. We see each other. Yeah.
I resonate a lot with that experience though, because being an athlete for 15 plus years and getting to such a high level, I think there were times where I would go to my therapist and, I'd be venting or complaining, and she would sit down and go, okay, but what do you want? And I was like, okay, well, here's what I have to do next. And here's, I'll feel a lot of relief if this happens. And she was like, okay, but like, what do you want? Like, not what does the outside want from Laurie, but like, what does Laurie want? And that kind of felt similar to your experience of like, okay, but what about you on the inside? So I'm really glad that you shared
And the
that
thing
experience.
is like, we all have, Laurie, which is so important, all of us, right? Like, we have these things that we think we're supposed to do, or that we've been convinced that we're supposed to do, or that we think is rational or the right thing to do. And then we have sometimes the fear, inability to either name what we really want, or to know what we really want, or sometimes we do know, like deep down we know, but we're like, we don't even let ourselves want it.
Yeah.
And that is why I feel so passionate about teaching the work that I teach, and why I wrote my book, Stay Woke, because it's about waking up and saying yes to these dreams that are inside of us, because we all deserve to do that.
Yeah. Which leads me, this is a brilliant transition. You you teach meditation as a guide, as a means of self-empowerment and healing. And your book, Stay Woke, a meditation guide for the rest of us, is groundbreaking. So how is it different from traditional meditation? And what did you feel that traditional meditation was maybe not reaching audiences who might benefit from these practices?
Yeah, thank you for asking the question in that way, because there, meditation has obviously been around for a long time, right? And for so often, I find that these practices become practices that people, I would just say like us, feel like are not for them, and that's changing, thankfully, in some big ways. But the reason I wrote this book is because meditation is often looked at as a tool to help you like reduce your stress or reduce your anxiety or relax or like just feel more at ease. And for so many of us, meditation can be something so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Meditation for me is a practice that has helped me become more aligned with the truth of who I really am, become more of my authentic self, become more of more courage and more confidence to become who it is that I say that I want to be, to step into the life that I want to have, to take risks, to start a business, to start an artistic project, to try dating, to be vulnerable, to open to intimacy. Like, these are actually the benefits of meditation when we use them and we use the practice in the right way. And so this is what inspired me to write the book, Stay Woke, which, my God, when I wrote it in 2018, who would have known the words would like have such a charge like they have now at this time. But for me, Stay Woke is about honestly staying awake to the truth of what is really happening, not just in our world, but also in our inner world. And that's the really important piece of the puzzle.
Yes to all of that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We recently had one of your friends, Alonzo, on the program. And when we asked who in the creative industry helped guide and inspire his own mental health journey, he said you. He expressed buckets of gratitude, and he's not alone. So is there one guiding philosophy or principle that you found when it comes to motivating people from all walks of life?
Let me tell you my motivating factor. And I'll start with this, and then I'll tell you like the shortest little story. It's my favorite story to tell. So the first thing that I'll say is that there's a difference between change and transformation. Right? This is one of my guiding philosophies. And I think everybody focuses too much on change. And the reason we focus too much on change is the reason why we're seeing the problems that we're seeing in the world and even in our lives happening again and again and again and again. And I'll make this a very basic example, okay? How many of us have been in a relationship with somebody, whether it's romantic or not, this could even be a friendship, got out of that relationship because we realized it wasn't right for us anymore, got into a whole new relationship with a different person, and soon realized you're in the same relationship, but just with a different human. Same problem, same conversation, same stuff. That is because change often focuses on shifting the external circumstances. Change my job, change my hair, change how my body looks, change where I live, change relationships. Transformation, on the other hand, is about an inner revolution, is about shifting who you are so that every where you go, your outcome is different because you are different. And so with the relationship example, you can't show up to any relationship differently if you haven't changed within. Whether that relationship is to your job, to a partner, to your money, to your self-love, to your body, you're just going to keep rinse and repeating the same cycle looking slightly different. Same relationship, different human. Same job, different company. Same. And then we wonder, why is everybody like this? Right? It's like, no, it's inside.
Yeah.
And this is not to shame or blame, but it's to really deeply understand that if we want to see transformation in our life, we have to turn that awareness, just like my therapist said that in the very beginning, right back here. And I'll say one last thing. It's not that the world doesn't impact what we do, right? Of course, people do messed up stuff. Of course, we have real situations that we have to deal with. But guess what? The only person that you have any control over shifting is right here. And so this is where we have to focus our energy to really focus on transforming our life and transforming our world.
Wow, yes to that. And I think what's also really interesting about, change versus transformation, which are two words that I never thought to ponder about. I just kind of let them exist, But I feel like with the word transformation, there is this acute acknowledgement of past and future. Whereas with change, it's just something else is happening. Something is not the same. Like, that's all it's saying. It's like, oh, something's different.
Yeah.
Where? We have no idea. Transformation is kind of like this road and this journey that acknowledges this is what happened before. What does different look like? Like, it's very grounded. And so I love that you brought that up, because I never would have thought about that.
I have to tell you a little story, because Alonzo, who referred me here, who I love, Alonzo's an amazing member of our community, who's so wise. But this is like a story that, if I didn't tell the story, he would kill me. Maybe that's dramatic, but he would not be happy with me. So the story is actually a story that when I was speaking in high schools, I still do a lot of speaking in high schools. I was speaking to the students, and then after the class, I went and spoke to the teachers, and the teacher said, "Can you tell that story that you told to the students?" And I was like, "Really? That's for kids." And in that moment, I realized that we're all just kids inside of ourselves. So this story might wake up some things in you. So the story goes like this. Once upon a time, long, long ago, there was this great river. And this great river was known far and wide throughout all the land to have the biggest fish that anybody had ever seen. And so people would travel for days and nights to get to this great river. And this young fisherman traveled for 4 days and 4 nights to get to the great river. And he arrived, and he's looking across the riverbank, and he sees this older fisherman throwing his fishing line into the river. And the older fisherman reels in this fish, and it's the biggest fish that the young fisherman has ever seen. The older fisherman sizes up the fish and throws it back into the river. And the younger fisherman is like, "What? Like, what is going on? Like, why is he throwing these big, beautiful fish back into the river?" And then the older fisherman reels in another fish. It's the biggest fish the younger fisherman has ever seen. And just before he's getting ready to throw it back into the river, the younger fisherman runs up and says, wait, stop. What are you doing? Why do you keep catching these big, beautiful fish and throwing them back into the river? And then he said this, listen carefully. He said, "Isn't this what you came for? Isn't this what you came for?" And so then the older fisherman looked right up at his fish, and he said, "Well, young man, while this fish may be big and it may be beautiful, it's too big for my frying pan. So I have to throw it back to get a smaller fish." Now, this sounds ridiculous, but this is what we do with our dreams. Dreams, ideas about our lives. And everybody here listening has something in their life that they want to take to the next level. Ideas about our relationships, about our intimacy, about our work, about our career, about our art, about our bodies, about our self-love come into our minds. And we say, that dream, too big for my circumstances, my frying pan. Too big for someone who looks like me. Too big because I'm too fat, too old, too ugly, too gay, not good enough. I waited too long. I should have done it before I had kids. It's not realistic. It's not going to make enough money. Does any of this sound familiar? And so this too big for our frying pan. And so The work that I am engaged in with people and that I invite people to do with themselves is to, first of all, remember that you can get a bigger frying pan. And this is what the meditation and mindfulness work does. It expands us. But then also to remember, you don't have to hold the whole fish alone. You cut up and take what you need and you share with others and you give and you do it together. Because the frying pan, even if you get a bigger frying pan, you can't do it all alone, because even the frying pan will get heavy after a while. And so this is what community is about. This is what doing it in collective is all about. And this is what really transformation is all about, is stepping into dreams that seem bigger than our limited circumstances. So that's my philosophy, the fish and the frying pan.
The fish and the frying pan. You got to make a book out of that. One of the things that you discuss in your book, Stay Woke, is the concept of turning toward toxic thoughts rather than papering over them with positivity. So this is intriguing. I understand this, but for our listeners, what do you mean by this?
I think we're starting to learn this a lot better now these days. So like this whole, first of all, we all have a negative critical inner voice. All of us, no matter how spiritual you are, no matter how successful you are, no matter how beautiful you are. I've had the gift of working with and teaching meditation and being in the background of some of the most successful people on the planet. You'd be shocked to know what some of the voices inside of their heads are saying. We all have this. And the solution is not this whole positive vibes only, oh, I should just push it down and push it away, because we all know this. Once you push something down long enough, what happens to it? It blows up somewhere that it doesn't belong. Right? It shows up in your health. It shows up you blowing up at your partner, at having a crazy anxiety, like all this stuff, because we're pushing. And so much of our anxiety, now I'm not talking about like clinical anxiety. I'm talking about the way that we all use the word now very liberally, right? Like, oh, I'm anxious or I'm stressed, which is real. We feel tension inside. But all this tension, I find so much of it, I would say most all of it, if not 90% of it, comes from us pushing things down in our lives that we don't want to face. And these things are wanting to come up, and the tension comes from us having to push. That takes effort to push stuff down. And so what we want to do instead is turn toward these thoughts and nurture them. We want to own them, and we say, oh, this comes from a younger, wounded part of myself. And how is it that I can hold that younger me and say, you're enough. I'm with you. I got you. You don't have to do this alone anymore, little one. Like, I got this. We're strong. We're confident. We're ready. We're secure. And there's other ways, obviously, of course, but we want to turn towards these thoughts instead of turning away from them and pushing them down.
Yeah. I am fully someone who will allow things to just pile up. And next thing I know, I'm crying uncontrollably because I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember, I don't remember who said this to me. I must have been really out of it. But I remember someone had asked, what do you need right now to diffuse this? Rather than trying to like stop the crying or trying to solve the problem immediately, what can we do to stretch this out and to spread it out on a table and look at it and take a breather? And that was just such once again, I feel like this is happening the whole podcast, but I'm really resonating with what you're saying, finding aspects of my life that it is very prominent. These images and these lessons have come up for me, and I recognize that. So I think a lot of the people that are listening here are going to gain so much out of this. And before anything else, I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and what is it that happened for you? I'm very curious, because I think this will be helpful to people when you did spread it out on the table. What happened then?
It was not really enough communication between. This was when I had first signed with my agent, who is wonderful, and I love her dearly. We started off my athletic career together, and we're still onward.
Still rocking.
Still vibing. But when I was a teenager, when I was 16 and we first started connecting, I was really bad at communicating what I needed schedule-wise. Not understanding okay, I feel like we're traveling a lot and this is really overwhelming to me. I'm starting to burn out, not knowing how to communicate those feelings. So it was one thing after the other. And then I would just break. And it was like, what's
Yeah.
going on? I'm like, I don't know, So
And then it boils down to your communication and
yeah,
you feeling comfortable speaking up for what you need and, all these things. So this is where it goes back to what we talked about, Laurie. And I'm so grateful that you answered that so vulnerably and honestly, is it comes back to within,
yep,
pointing the finger within to go, oh, how am I contributing to my own suffering?
yeah,
How am I being a part of creating? You're not the only one creating it, but how am I contributing to creating these things that are causing the problems and stress in my life? And when we can own that, that's where the shift starts to happen.
yeah. Because it was like as soon as I started communicating to her, like, hey, Cheryl bestie, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling anxious. I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling like this is too much. And it was like, bleh. Like this happy, optimistic 16-year-old with like not a thought behind the eyes except for light, suddenly is like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this. I don't understand what's going on. And she's like, okay, so we need to spread these out more is what you're saying. Would that help? And do you need more time alone? Is that what you're saying? We can schedule that in between events. And it was such a simple fix.
Mm-hmm.
And it was up to me to communicate those needs so that way she and I can continue working really well together. And I've learned so much just through that partnership and through that relationship. So it was
Amazing.
It was me. And I think 13-year-old me would have been like, oh, this is her fault. Which is a normal young teen thing to say, but this is
or just totally afraid to speak up, thinking if I say something, then something bad's going to happen, or if I express my needs, then they're not going to get validated, or they're going to drop me as a client, or blah blah blah, right? And so, but what we really have to learn is that when we can get real about how we're creating the situation, then we recognize who's really in charge here, right? And that's anyway,
yes,
this is where the transformation happens.
Underserved communities, BIPOC, LGBTQIA face a whole host of additional stressors, anxieties, and traumas. I relate to this as a queer Latina. It's everywhere. So what are some of the ways that you help people navigate the inequities and discrimination that they encounter just in daily living?
Well, there's a lot of ways, but let me talk about the most important way. I think this is one of the most important ways. I'm really just feeling into this so I can speak to it from my heart. These practices that we talk about, mental health, manifesting, fulfilling our purpose, living our dreams, following our path, healing our trauma. For so many of us, we're the first people in our family line in generations upon generations that can even be remembered, that even had the opportunity to think about these things, that even had the chance to even consider the idea of mental health or, healing our trauma or going after our purpose or living freely. We have been paid for in so many ways, and we cannot take that for granted, right? And I don't say that to create shame on anybody, and nor to create like pressure on anybody. But what I tell people is to remember that you didn't just get your trauma from your ancestors and the people that came before you. You got your strength because you're here, right? And so when you feel like you don't have enough to move forward, you don't have the discipline, you don't have the focus, you don't have the confidence, you don't have the strength, that's when you lean in and rely on your ancestors. People talk so much about the trauma, but we forget about the strength and the resilience, and the healing and the power that is in the DNA of marginalized people. And so lean into that and know energetically that you're not alone. This is the most powerful thing that I believe that we can do.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Because we're going to be ancestors soon. Right? I mean, if we're lucky, we get like 100 clock years, right? In these bodies.
That's true.
And maybe a little more, right? If we're lucky. And And so this work that we're doing now, like the next generation, whether that's like biological children or not, it doesn't matter. Like when we think of like LGBTQIA plus ancestry, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily biological, it's social.
Mm.
And the people who come next are going to be on the shoulders of all this amazing work that we've done on ourselves. And this work matters for our own liberation and freedom, but it also matters for the generation. And so we're here to be supported for the generations, from the generations backward, just like we are supporting the generations forward.
Yes to that.
Yeah.
Yes to that. Oof. Again, my mom's a social worker, and there was something you mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast about kind of stopping this cycle. I know she grew up in just an awful household, and the things that happened to her from one of her parents happened to this parent from their parents. And I remember when I got old enough for her to tell me about what was going on at home, and then recognizing that through all of that, she became a therapist, or, you know, a social worker and a therapist. Like, it just blew my mind that she was able to take this and think, I want something different. And she was able to stop that train from coming in this way. And now my own sister is a social worker with her own private practice. My brother is in finance, but now wants to go and get his master's degree in psychology because he's interested in the brain. I live in the world of mental health advocacy, and I'm interested, and I love human behavior because we're so quirky and interesting. But that recognition of being able to take a second and look at who has come before you and recognize the resilience that if you need it and if you want it, it's there for you.
It's there. Oh, honey, it is in your bones. It is in your DNA, you know? And so you can lean into that.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, what effect does creative self-expression have on your own mental well-being?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this goes very hand in hand with what we were discussing earlier about pushing things down.
Mm.
The Fisherman story, you know, and the things that are coming through you. If you have something creative that is wanting to press through you, creativity is one of the most powerful forces in life. Like, the word creation is literally like what we use to create life, you know, and creativity comes from the same word. If you have some creativity that is wanting to press through you and you don't let it through, there are very few things that are going to eat you up inside more than that. Yeah. And the reason I share that is because everybody has a different relationship to their creativity. And when I'm saying creativity, I want to be very clear that I don't necessarily just mean artistic, right? Like, we're all creating things all the time. And so when you are self-expressing through your creations, that is one of the most kind of, I'll use this language to be a little woo-woo, like divine gifts that you could possibly do, because you're taking something from nothing and manifesting it into the world. And without you doing that, it doesn't come.
Yeah.
It never happens. And so we judge ourselves so much, I think, on our creativity and on our creative self-expression, that we sometimes don't allow ourselves to step into it. But your creative self-expression is the easiest and best pathway to happiness, fulfillment, joy, connection, fun, play. So, honey, let it come through, okay? And let it come through in a way that isn't necessarily tied or attached to it needing to be seen, accepted, or loved, or even viewed by anyone. There's so many times that I create and write songs and things that nobody ever hears. And it's in the expectation of what somebody's going to hear that or see that we often stop ourselves from even doing it. Can you just do it for you without wondering about the gaze that is going to be placed upon it before you even start?
Yes. We are so thrilled that you are going to share a little bit of your artistic magic today. You are going to perform your amazing song, I Am Enough. Is this something that possibly you wrote for your childhood self? I would love for you to talk a little bit about who or what inspired it.
Yeah. So I'm just grabbing my guitar. So my I was having, just like I said, we all have these moments. I was having a day, okay? And a day when I felt like, what am I doing? I'm such a failure. What am I doing with my life? What's the point? Why have I not been gotten to here yet? Comparing myself to other people. Why are other people there and I'm not here? Da, 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 da. And I did exactly what I said. I held myself and I said, oh, here's these thoughts. I see you, little Justin. And I started writing this song. And the song I wrote to the child inside of myself, and also because there is one in each of us, who just wants to know that they're enough, not for what they do, what they accomplish, what they achieve, how much they succeed, but for who they are. And so, yeah, you'll hear the very first words of this song where that night I was sitting at my piano and I was a mess, okay, honey? Like a mess. And these were the first words that came out. And this is what ended up turning into this song called I Am Enough. So the words to the chorus are, I am enough, I am golden, baby, yeah. Golden, baby, yeah. So if you want to sing along from home or while you're listening, please feel free to sing along. This is I Am Enough. Little boy, don't cry. You've been in pain enough. No. Little girl, don't fight. You're finally safe enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise no more. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. I am enough. I am golden, baby. Yeah. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, I am golden, baby. Yeah. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, little girl, it's alright. You've taken the blame. Enough. Oh, little boy, don't hide. You've been ashamed. Enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise no more. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. Here we go, come on. I am enough, hey. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Ooh, I am enough. I am enough. Ooh, I am enough. You are enough. Ooh, we are enough. We are enough. Ooh, we are enough. We are enough. We are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. This is our moment. This is our time. We are enough. Oh, we are golden, baby. Yeah. We are enough. We are enough. We are enough. We are enough. I am enough. You are enough. We are enough. And we rise together.
Whew. Holy moly. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. A message that we all need. And something is going straight into my self-care toolbox. So, Justin, thank you. Thank you for sharing that gift with us.
Thank you, Laurie.
If you could give that younger self some mental health advice, what would it be?
Oh, the things that make you different are the things that make you awesome. And so don't sit here trying to fit in or trying to make yourself something that you're not, little one, because it's all those little things that make you different that are actually the things that you're going to love about yourself the most when you get a little older. So just be yourself, just be yourself, and you are enough. That's it, know?
Yes. And what does self-care look like for you? Do you have any important morning, day, or evening rituals?
Yeah. So my number one thing is not looking at my phone when I first wake up in the morning for the first 30 minutes. That's A1. And I tell people there's so much research on this. If you can do that, it changes the trajectory of your whole day. First 30 minutes after waking up, even if you did 15, don't look at your phone. You could turn your alarm off, but no notifications, no nothing. You don't even want to see that you have a notification. So what I do, this is my nightly ritual. When I go to bed and I turn my alarm on, I turn my phone on airplane mode because I don't need no notifications coming in anyway. So then when I wake up, I don't even have to turn my alarm off and see, oop, there's something there that I need to read, right? And then you get kind of seduced and like pulled into the phone. No phone 30 minutes or even 15, and it will literally change your mood, your energy. The studies on this are pretty nuts. So I've been doing that for years, and it's made a big difference for me.
Wow. I'm gonna have to try that. I am not the greatest at that. So I love that.
Try it for 10. Give yourself the permission to try it for 10 days.
Yeah.
And if you don't see a difference, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And our last question for today, and we end all of our podcasts with this question. What gives you hope?
Seeing people not just change, but transform. I have watched people, and this is why I have so much hope about the world. I have personally watched, I've worked with hundreds now of thousands of people all over the world, working in 40 different countries and teaching and singing and doing these different things. I have watched people with my own eyes transform from being racist or insensitive to open and loving and kind and caring, from being homophobic in my own family to being like, pride flag throwers, I have watched people transform in ways that would seem impossible. And that gives me hope because it helps me see that if we approach people with love and kindness and compassion, that this world actually can transform. It can do more than change, it can transform.
Justin, thank you so much for sharing your story, your insights, and your many talents with us today. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and our listeners are going to gain so much from this. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm so grateful, Laurie. You're the bomb. Awesome.
You too.